Okay, Tim. Here's the hot take. Porn is just harmless entertainment. It's like movies, like Netflix. You watch it, you enjoy it, you get over it, and you move on with your day. What do you think?
Fully agree.
You fully agree.
No, I mean, I was thinking about this topic quite a lot, and I think it's a very hot topic at the moment in our society. A lot of people are thinking about it, feeling like they are addicted to pornography, etc. And I think it's been since the beginning of the internet that pornography has been a hot topic.
I think since the beginning of the internet, there has been more pornography on the internet. If you look at megabytes transferred than anything else, I think like on an average day, obviously I don't know the statistics off by heart, but I'm pretty sure like a huge portion of the usable internet that people use every day is just pornography.
It's a huge portion of what I use internet for. No, I'm just kidding, of course. But I think it's an interesting topic, and it reminds me, honestly, I know like a lot of people are like, okay, porn is bad, we need to stop it, blah, blah, blah. But I also like to look at it from the other angle. And what it reminded me of was the early discussions I had with my parents, and I know other people also had, about video games.
Yes.
You know, it's like not about.
Dad, which porn do you watch?
About the bees and the birds and the bees. No. But like about video games, because people were saying like it's such a hyper meta reality that people just get stuck in and they get addicted and they cannot get out and they don't see the real world anymore. And now I feel like we hear like a similar story about pornography.
What's the meme? We're still waiting for GTA 6 or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm with you. Before we jump into it, I want to ask you two questions. When was the last time you played a video game? And when was the last time you watched porn?
Fuck. I definitely... I mean, I play video... depends what you mean by video game, but...
When last did you play a porn video game? Sorry, I had to. I forgot about that.
I prefer not to answer that without my lawyer.
Plead the fifth.
Nah, that's a low cut. Michael, I prefer not to answer that.
That's all right.
No. But I mean, I get what your point is. So, like,
yeah,
pornography is way more pervasive, also, and we're still in it so much.
I think pornography is a lot more. It evokes something far more intrinsic within us, far more primal. We talk about the monkey brain. And then the prefrontal cortex, we learned it in the CTP. As further back you go and the closer you go to your spinal cord, the more you have involuntary things like breathing and digestion and metabolism. And I think that porn tends to evoke something very core within us because part of the purpose of life is reproduction.
Yeah.
Going back to what you said with regards to the video games. So there's thousands of videos out there and podcasts out there about pornography. So I think, at least for me, one of the things that I want to do differently is, at least for myself, share a bit more of like the reality behind it. In other words, be a bit more vulnerable, because a lot of the brilliant podcasts that I've watched about the topic, the one in particular that comes to mind is Diary of the CEO and Dr. K, the recent one they did. And they go into like all this detail, but then both of them make themselves seem like they complete like angels and like they've never done anything wrong. And for
There's
me,
no vulnerability.
it would have been a lot more interesting if they had just been a little bit more vulnerable.
So the question, I also wonder then, are they that mentally strong that it's really not an issue for them? They never had.
No, I don't think that's the case. I mean, I do think they're very mentally strong. So no, I don't. I think because it's kind of like a paradox, because they're so mentally strong and they probably haven't watched porn in so long or whatever, it's not something that comes to their mind. But they could have related to days when they did or when they were younger or whatever, right? Yeah. And I noticed like often Diary of the CEO, he does that when he talks about traumas in his life. I say Diary of the CEO, Stephen Bartlett. But I didn't get that same feeling of that relation when they were talking about pornography. But it's also understandable. It's a taboo topic.
It's a taboo topic.
It's a taboo topic. Yeah. And it's something that I think also is, because it's taboo, it's also very difficult for us to talk to ourselves about it, or to be honest with ourselves about it. You know, you sort of watch it, and then maybe feel shame and just compartmentalize it and pack it in the back of your mind somewhere and try and just, if I can move on with the day.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to get to here was, I think the thing that you brought up with video games. So there's this whole thought process that says, well, one of the big problems with pornography is the fact that it sets a very realistic expectation for people's like sex lives.
That's what a lot of people say, at least. Yeah,
a lot of people say. I don't know. From my personal experience, I don't feel like that was necessarily the case. And I was thinking about it actually today in preparation for our podcast. And then the relation would be like, well, action movies, right? I mean, you watch action movies and people chop heads off and there's blood and stuff. But like, I don't like get into a fist fight and then expect like blood to pour out of someone's neck if I just hit. Like, you get what I'm trying to say? Like, you kind of know that it's not real.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
I think surprisingly, I thought we would have a very different discussion going into this, but I think we're pretty much aligned. So I think actually there is more of an issue in the world with addiction in general, getting addicted to things. And I think pornography is one of those that can trigger it because it's one of the primal needs. Mm-hmm. But we also talked before about the how would I say, like the gas station food.
Yes.
You know, like that everything is hyper-palatable.
Yes.
And it's just, you can get addicted to anything because we found ways to completely dissect everything and then take out the things that are super tasty, really attractive, that give the most dopamine, and then we put them all together because that's what we enjoy.
Yes.
And if you are sensitive to that, you might get addicted, or if
we are all sensitive to that. That's why it's so successful.
Yeah, but like some people might be more sensitive to one thing or the other.
To certain things. Yeah. So it's sort of like picking your poison. I mean, we were talking about earlier over dinner how the modern world has become hypersensitized to dopamine and to like things that draw away from the essence of like being. So we talk about social media and fast food and like
look at obesity,
stimulants, I mean the list goes on and on for all the things. And then the discussion of pornography came up, and then we said, well, let's wait until we're recording to chat about it. But I think that definitely, so each one of these things fills. So like a primal desire is food, right? And like sustenance, caloric intake. And fast food fills that extremely well. Another primal desire is like understanding your safety within a social hierarchy. And social media plays on that. It doesn't necessarily fill it, but it plays on that need very well. I think like video games maybe plays on the idea of interacting with others, but in like a remote setting. Yeah. And then I think pornography on like the sexual side or the reproductive side.
And also what I found very interesting is now we have this whole thing with like social media, OnlyFans, etc. And then like in Pornhub and these kind of things that are really big pornography and providers. But back in the day, I mean, it's an old saying that sex sells. It's used in advertisement, it's used in music videos and stuff. So that's like, and even before we had the internet, pornography was a thing, but then it was like, maybe you'll find
magazines and DVDs.
But even like in ancient China, they had like drawings and stuff. Yeah. So literally like they were just like pornography drawings that people...
I mean, ancient sculptures, you were big into your Greek mythology and stuff, but a lot of ancient sculptures were like sculpted naked and stuff like that. So it's
That's a very funny thought, by the way.
Yeah, it's about as intertwined as it is with like human essence development and intelligence, but more intellectual, let's say. But now we've created these tools that give us access to everything, and part of it is to use it like...
And maybe now I'm thinking, is there this development arc of our society that we learn to extract these hyper-palatable, hyper-attractive essences, put them together, basically create our own challenge, and then our development is to literally overcome the external stimulants that we ourselves created.
Yeah.
Because in order to be completely free...
So this is a very good point. It's something I want to touch on. So, I mean, we talked in previous episodes about like Alex Hormozy and a lot of these entrepreneurs and these hustlers and their push or whatever. And I definitely think, I mean, you look at it now, we've got 8-9 billion people in the world, and like many people are stuck in these cyclic, I want to call it dopamine dead ends, right? Where maybe you don't really like a job, but you do it so that you can earn money to pay off debt, and the debt was used to buy clothes to impress people that you didn't like,
Right.
and then binge eat fast food that wasn't really nourishing, whilst watching TV that wasn't really interesting, but it distracted you, and you had social media going to make you feel even worse, which made you then watch
Sounds like a
pornography.
dreadful life.
Yeah, but you get what I'm trying to say. Like,
Yeah.
I'm talking about this dopaminergic. So the point that I'm getting at here is that I think that, yes, if you're able to break free from these dopamine catches in whatever form they may be, I think it is definitely a hack to set you apart from the masses and from like society, and then to like win, whether it be from a productivity perspective or from a monetary wealth perspective or peace, fulfillment, happiness perspective. So yes, I agree with you there, but I feel like with all these things, the masses are still like, the majority of people on this earth are still like stuck. And we're not really getting over. I mean, if we look at any of the things from social media to food to, we're not really getting over these hurdles, I don't think.
I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure if it's if we had enough time. Because even if you think about it from, like, let's take food as an example. Once we had the, let's say, industrial revolution, and then we were able to make more and more highly palatable food, things started to go out of hand and people started to get obese, etc. But now you have this huge wave of people who try to use all this technology and knowledge to become extremely healthy. Mm-hmm. And that group of people has grown quite a lot.
But they are minute compared to the number of obese people.
Yeah, but it's a trend, so it's growing. Like, it takes time.
I mean, you've got three types of people. You've got obese, you've got starving, like living below the poverty line, and then you've got 0.0001%. That's this. What's the guy's name? The health nut. Yeah. That guy. Well, the name will come to me. Brian Johnson.
Yeah, Johnson.
Don't die.
Exactly.
And then it's like, why don't we just have more of the in between? Just like.
I think we have that as well, but you don't hear so much about it. And I think I'm more optimistic about it, because I think I do see, and that's also what you see on social media. That's why this topic is so interesting, is that you see a lot of people who are interested in getting over that addiction.
Okay, so now let's get back to the topic of this episode. So if we look at the main addictions, we can say food, we can say like substances, maybe nicotine, alcohol, I don't know, marijuana, these sorts of things. Social media would be like Facebook, Instagram. Games would be like Xbox, whatever. And then you've got like pornography. And do you think pornography is significantly more addictive than the other ones for like the average person or for the global population? If so, why? If not, why not?
I find it also, maybe first one thing that we can define maybe between ourselves is, what do you call an addiction? I think that's maybe because there's also a healthy use of something, or at least using something for recreation that doesn't hinder all your other functions. I wouldn't call it an addiction then. And
so
also, if you're able to
one
stop,
beer on a weekend is not necessarily addicted to alcohol.
Yeah,
and that's a very interesting one, because like for individuals it's different. I've watched a lot of these podcasts where you have like these experts come in. Most of the time the common trend is when you're using it to avoid, using whatever it is to avoid something. And I think very intrinsically, you're using it to maybe mask a trauma or some sort of emotional response that's consciously or unconsciously you're not very comfortable sitting with.
Yeah, that's hard to estimate how many people have that, I think, because it's not an external marker.
Yes.
But I do know a lot of people who struggle with their pornography use that I know personally. I can personally say that I do not really. I've never really felt like it's an issue or that I feel ashamed about it. I'm currently not watching pornography. I've had periods of many years where I didn't watch it. Then I started watching, or then I watched occasionally. Then I stopped. And
I think that's a very interesting point, and it's nuanced with addiction, is that you can often use something in a state where you're sitting uncomfortably with an emotion, but then very quickly there's that saying that in your brain, neurons that fire together wire together, and so you end up creating a neural pathway that stimulates that insane pleasure response in your brain. And so people then go back to this thing, not necessarily because there's that underlying uncomfortable feeling or trauma or use pattern or whatever, but just simply because of that desire. Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then the shame associated with doing something that you know you probably shouldn't or you don't want to makes it very difficult to deal with emotionally, and then you're in that emotional space, and then you use again, and then you end up in this cycle.
Yeah, I think shame is a big contributor to that as well. I remember one of the things that was a discussion point between me and my friends back in the day was that also the pornography industry is not the most pleasant one for many people, but specifically women to be in. So that would be a reason not to watch it or feel bad about it.
But it's like saying that the modern day meat industry is not particularly conducive for the animals that are in it.
Fair point. That's why people don't eat meat, right?
Yeah. I don't touch this stuff myself.
Do you ever eat meat, Michael?
Never. No, not even once.
Mike's on a carnivore diet. It's like saying that I will only watch porn from now on. I don't want to see anything but.
Buy those glasses and the overlay, and you're sitting talking to your manager.
Imagine they can see what you're looking at.
Oh my god, that's hilarious. So
if you're not naked, I'm not going to talk to you anymore.
Okay, back to the essence. So
was funny.
So do you think pornography is more addictive than these other things? So what I'm thinking about in my mind when I ask the question is that most people drink, right? Most people drink alcohol. Like if you go to like a random group in our company, ASML, and you say you're going to go out for a company event, company's going to pay at the restaurant, most people will have few drinks. There's always one person that has way too many and one girl who doesn't drink. But you get what I'm trying to say, like most people will drink. So if I think, okay, so alcohol is something that's addictive, most people drink, then do most people use pornography? And do we see the same distribution where most people use it moderately? There's always the one guy that uses too much and the one girl that uses none. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. I think it's a good question. I think in general, from my own description of addiction, I would say most people are not addicted to pornography. Mm-hmm. But I do think because of the narrative of our society, a lot of people feel ashamed about pornography. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
So, once again, it's where do you draw the line with addiction? And maybe if we move away from addiction and we talk more about the shame, I think that, yes, most people who use pornography and maybe not initially experience feelings of shame, but then definitely at some point experience. I think it's very interesting as well because we obviously men, and so we look at it from a men's point of view. And I was always under the impression that it was predominantly more men that would use pornography, going back to evolutionary men being stimulated more visually, women more emotionally. But through a lot of these podcasts that I've watched, apparently it's the spread is actually not as big as what people think. Like there are also like women, a lot more women who use and are addicted to pornography.
Interesting.
If we look at the like pornography industry online, I mean, it's absolutely fucking booming, right? So there's definitely got to be this huge desire, like this huge need.
Yeah.
So I mean, like if you think about it this way, you take 100 people at your company, whatever company you work at, you put them in a room, like at least of the guys, probably like 80% of them or like 90% of them like use pornography, I would say, on a daily or weekly basis, right? And it's like something that people don't think of. It's also like you don't think about people like fucking all the time, right?
Not all the time.
but you get what I'm trying to say. Like I think, just like also you don't think about people shitting and like being naked all the time. At least I don't know about you, but we don't think about people's maybe pornography use. So I think that yes, there's a huge amount of use on it, and I think that there's a lot of shame because you kind of fall into one of two categories. If you either use pornography in a like proper relationship, or you use it not in a proper relationship. And I think if you use it in a proper relationship, there's shame associated with not having that intimacy and that connection and that sexual energy, right? Because I mean, human sexuality is an extremely powerful part of the essence of life. And being able to share that essence of life with a partner it doesn't even need to be a long-term partner, but with a partner, like a consensual partner in like the act of sex, I think is something extremely sacred and powerful.
Yeah.
So I think people who end up using pornography and are in committed relationships or would like to do that with their partner, it's like an escape and they feel shame about that, or it's like a cheap way out. And then people who aren't in a relationship use it and they are able to fulfill the sexual desire, which is very much part of being human, and it probably diminishes some of their drive towards actually finding a partner to be in a relationship with.
Yeah.
Right. At least I can talk from personal experience.
Exactly. I was going to ask you, how do you relate to
because
that?
I mean, so like we're talking about being vulnerable. So I discovered pornography at a young age, being a nerd and interested in the computer and the internet. I was very young. I think I was like, I don't know, 10 years old or something, and like I think I told you the story about going on Google and being like a sex video and stuff like that. And then my parents found out, and I was like banned from the computer for like a year. Long story.
Yeah.
But then as I got older, I became more and more involved in computers. I was in like the gaming community at the time. So we would go to like LANs and we would share movies and games and series and music and pornography.
Yeah.
You would have Apex, DC++, whatever it was called, and you would download stuff.
All the addictive things together, basically.
Exactly, in a combo patch. So I used for a very, very long time, I would say actually most of my life to a certain degree. And then the beginning of...
And why did you do that? What was your reason?
It was, I would say, very unconscious.
But was it an escape for you, or it was just the way that you masturbated, or like...
So, and I think masturbation is an interesting one, and that's something I'd like to get into after this. I think that... I hope not.
Live.
But I don't know exactly to answer your question. I think that, yes, I was definitely linked with masturbation, like sexual pleasure. But also, to be honest, it's a very difficult conversation to have. And I never really spoke about it too much with like even friends or people, obviously like parents and these sorts of things. So then it's just sort of something that exists and like one used, and like I used. And I only really started questioning it later on in my life. And it was last year or the year before where I went through periods where I quit for a long time. And then at the beginning of this year, I quit not only pornography, but also masturbation completely for like 6 months.
Yeah.
And that was really insightful, because then going through that like cleansing process, a lot of the feelings that were sort of being suppressed through this addictive behavior was then allowed to come out, good and bad. And then also like the desire for like that human sexuality became a lot more pronounced.
Yeah.
And then one is, a lot more, I want to say, like actively like looking for a partner, because obviously one wants to like share stories and connect and all these things, but also from the sexual side of things. So I definitely recognize that for sure.
It's very interesting, because I think in a lot of cases, especially for me and the people that I know, pornography started off as being something pretty harmless. So you just, even maybe you're not watching porn, but like I said, you have like the MTV video, something like that. It's you're a young adult growing up. But then later we started to think more about the morals. So then the thing that we started to feel guilty about is these people don't have it that well, or they're not like in there because they choose to, but because of the money, blah, blah, blah. The interesting thing that I would like to look for in any kind of addiction, so you can talk about food, for instance, if you overeat and stuff, it's really unhealthy. So it just limits the way that you can express yourself in your body, how you feel, and also how long you will be able to live. Like you will just get diseases, etc. For pornography, I think there are a couple of things that would speak against it, which is, again, like the condition of these individuals who perform these acts. Although nowadays you can make the point that a lot of people do freely choose to do it. For instance, OnlyFans is a good example. Soft pornography on Instagram and commercials, I think they make money and they choose to do it. I wouldn't say it's the best choice for that individual, but it's the thing that exists. They have the free choice to do it.
Prostitution has existed since the beginning of time. So
that's also, you can make the point that that's maybe also not completely voluntary, but yeah, that's existing for a long time. But then there are no physical harming factors to yourself as watching pornography, except for the fact that if you start to realize, and I think maybe that's the main point, that you are not in control anymore, but this thing is taking control of you. You are not able to say, I don't want to watch it for the coming month without going through intense mental struggle. That tells you that
that's the definition of addiction.
Yeah.
Anything that you can't voluntarily stop easily.
Exactly.
And I think
like
a lot
breathing.
of us, a lot of us lie to ourselves about like addiction.
But I think that's where the guilt comes in. So that's the real origin of the guilt, is realizing that you are not in control anymore.
And what I want to mention here, which is really important, is that the reason for me wanting to start this podcast with you is because I felt like for my entire life, I'd been in like an automatic mode in a dream. And like at a certain point as I got older, I like woke up, like reality slapped the fuck out of me at one point. And I woke up, and I think for many people they experience this, and at least for me, and I think for many people as well, it's also associated with great pain in life. You go through something extremely painful and you're like, what the fuck? And you start thinking, and then you sort of wake up. And one of the reasons why I want to make this podcast is also to like explain to younger Michael about how like you're in this loop. And it's also not very clear. It was never very clear to me what like the other side felt like, because I like just used it when I was much younger, especially when you're a teen. I mean, how horny are you when you're like 16, 17, 18 years old, right? Like the male brain is just fucking flooded with testosterone. Like you don't even think like, oh, like what would the essence of life be if I didn't see a naked girl on my little phone that is so amazing and connected to the internet? Like you're like a monkey with a banana sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And now like as you get older, then you're able to reflect, and that's at least like one of the purposes of this podcast for me.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, it reminds me of the time when I was also in high school, like you said, like all this testosterone filling your body. And that's actually the one thing that I wanted to mention as a positive side of pornography and these even prostitution, but like these alternative outlets of sexuality is back in the day before the internet and all this flooded pornography, there was also quite a lot of rape. So there was quite a lot of unanswered sexual desire that went somewhere. And if you're living like somewhere in a small village, there's no internet, whatever, like weird shit can happen. It
didn't even have to manifest as like physical sexual violence, but it could be physical violence against other men.
Sure,
or it
frustration.
could be in some sort of like in work settings, or it could be nations and wars and all these sorts. I mean, it could manifest in many different negative ways.
Yeah,
some of it being sexual for sure. Yeah.
So I think that there is a desire and a need for it, and I think.
Let me ask you a hypothetical question. It's a difficult one, but what's worse, having a no, but it's a genuine question. What's worse, having a population of men that are overly sexually frustrated, that take out their frustrations in a myriad of different, maybe not so great ways, or having a population of men that are weak and meeble and completely fucking useless because they're numbed by millions and billions of petabytes of pornography entering their brains every second?
Whew. That's a devilish dilemma. I don't know, man. I personally would say that the second one is worse.
Me as well. I mean, it's like the lesser of two evils, right? But
I think maybe women would vote in another way.
For sure, especially if someone, I mean, like, you know, we don't want to be unfair here. If someone's ever gone through some form of, I mean, it doesn't even have to be sexual violence, but violence. I mean, like, I've been through my own fair share of violence. I was mugged at gunpoint in South Africa, and that, I think, was drugs-driven, not related. But also, you never know to what degree, like, these things are related to, let's say, sexual frustration
for sure.
or not. And it's like any points in life where you have to create something bad, not good, in order to stop something else that is bad / not good, doesn't seem like a good trade-off.
But I think it's also not that black and white.
I think religion was like an attempt at like creating a framework for people to live by in order to control themselves holistically, be it sexually and physically and mentally and all these things. And I think that's a far better way of living than just living normally and then using porn to numb the sexual frustration that may manifest into physical frustration. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I agree. But I think that is indeed what religion offered, and I think that is definitely true and a positive thing. But it's not that black and white, as you said. So you said basically like, okay, you have a bad thing, you're trying to cure it with another bad thing, but it's not true. It's more like there is a problem, there's a need, and we're trying to fill that need, and that the way that we fill it might be imperfect. It might solve the problem a little bit, but create another one, or it might only solve it 90% or 80%. So what I'm trying to say is that I think it's all about the individual, and that's with most problems from my point of view. Like, we can generalize everything if we want, and it's easy to say yes or no, right or wrong, but in principle I think it's about, you should think, why am I feeling guilty about this? What is the reason for me to feel guilty? Is it about the people who do the acting? Is it about me not being in control? What is it exactly? And then try to find what is it that you need to do in order to get rid of this guilt. And sometimes I think what we're doing also, like breaking the taboo and just talking about it, that it is a thing. Yeah, I think because let's take it hypothetically, no one watches porn, but everyone is still fantasizing in their mind. Like,
I think that's better.
But why?
Because at least you're using your imagination.
Yeah, but that's just like, there's like a dad saying that I'd rather have you play outside than play on the computer, because at least you're like, what are you talking about?
Like,
it doesn't matter.
Like, would you rather have like, I don't know, like, I was going to say everyone reading versus everyone like thinking about stories in their head. Like, people used to think of stories in their head and then tell them around a campfire. Like, think of a time when in our everyday lives now where we actually use our imagination, Tim.
I use it quite a lot. I have a wild imagination, but I get your point. I get your point. Like, there was actually like a Dutch comedian who had a very interesting suggestion about this. He said that he thinks that the reason why we have a consciousness that we have is that we created this insane brain to come up with fantasies to masturbate on. But then once that desire was gone, we were left with this insane capacity to think. Yeah. Like, you have this like GPUs making this model.
I would go one step further. I would say that modern day pornography is even more intense than what the average person's imagination could ever dream of in their wildest fantasies. Like, there's shit out there that's like legal to like look at on the internet, which is crazy. Actually, I don't think that that's good for society in the slightest.
But I don't think that it's more crazy than imagination, though, because I think, like, I don't know, but like, you can imagine. No, like, there's no limit to your imagination, right? You can imagine anything, and in fact, someone imagined it before they made the video. So
yes, but it doesn't mean that everyone imagined it before they made it. Yes, like, obviously, like, basic ones like threesome, okay, like, yeah, we get it. But then, like, if you go into like crazy weird shit, then like
in like the 1300s or something, sultans in the Ottoman Empire had harems, which were just basically 40 or 100 women for themselves.
Hectic. I didn't know that.
So, like, don't you think the common people talked about that and fantasized about it? So,
I'm with you. I want to take a detour. I want to talk about masturbation.
Yeah, I'm a right-handed guy.
But what do you think the link is between the reason why I ask is because in a lot of the videos or podcasts, that I watch, like Dr. K was saying that many people who use pornography don't necessarily masturbate to the pornography.
That sounded fucking wild. I heard that as well. Yeah, but like, what the fuck do they do?
They'd be like working from home and just have like another screen open with just like pornography on it.
I found it awfully unrealistic.
But I mean, like, these people wouldn't mention. I mean, they're like acclaimed psychologists and stuff. So I'm like wondering, well, what is the link between like pornography use? Because the masturbation is then like the sexual climax, or like that energy manifested in a certain way. What are your thoughts, Tim?
I have a lot of thoughts about this. No, but I think that, masturbate. So I've never heard of people who just put on some pornography on the background. But I mean,
background music.
So weird.
Background porn.
I don't think
in one of our next podcasts we can have the screen here and just have some background.
Well, it's just like, so either you are interested in that interaction and you're getting the rush and the stimulus, or not. I don't see why you would put that on the background.
Yeah, but I mean, we could like use our minds to like deduce. So it's obviously something that's extremely interesting for the psyche, for the brain. And so if you have thoughts and feelings that are underlying within you that you don't want to deal with, you put that up, your brain becomes extremely interested in that. And it's like a known thing. It's like one of the reasons why like pornography is so used and so addictive is because when you're in the sexually aroused state, there's parts of your brain that deal with emotional processing and feeling emotions that is shut off. And that makes sense because in history, like evolutionarily, when you were focused on procreating, you don't want to have the feelings about how breakfast tasted that morning sitting with you. You want to be able to move all of that aside, or not maybe, but childhood traumas or whatever it may be. You want to be able to move that aside so that you can focus on doing the act, right?
I'm drifting a bit, but have you ever watched Seinfeld?
No.
So it's like a comedy series, and there's one guy, George Costanza, and he is he's a bit of a crazy guy, but he comes up with the situation where he wants to have sex with his girlfriend and eat at the same time. So he hides like a sandwich in his drawer next to the bed, and then he like takes a bite. So I don't know. I was just thinking about that. What was your question? I just imagine eating the most delicious sandwich while you're also having... So, okay, I can see that there's maybe... Okay. I've never heard of it. It's not my thing. People... I find it strange to hear that there are apparently a lot, according to Dr. K, a lot of people who watch pornography without masturbation. The way that I learned about it and heard it from everyone that I know is it's an additional visual stimulation for you to basically just maybe enjoy it more, but also get it done with a bit faster. Because I also hear a lot of people, and that I can tell was also, or is the appeal of masturbation. Sometimes it can help you relax and fall asleep in the evening. Like if you want to fall asleep, it just helps. I'm sure there are some physical explanations for why it's happening, but that's the main thing that I hear from a lot of people that they would masturbate for, is just to fall asleep quicker. And then if you have porn, you just happens faster. It's just like getting it out of the way kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's my thought on masturbation. And I also personally think that masturbation is also a big taboo, but I think that definitely shouldn't be, because in order to kind of know what you like sexually, also if you're with someone else, you kind of have to learn what you like.
Yes.
And the best way to do that is with yourself.
Yes.
And I think it's
but there is also a fine line between like using something purely to like explore oneself, or using something to exploit oneself, right? Because once again, it can be a tool that people can use to avoid certain emotions and these things. And something that I always found quite interesting, and I don't know where I heard it a long time ago, it's like someone said that one of the reasons our arms are the length that they are, and like our genitals are like the distance that they are, is so that we can actually like pleasure ourselves, right? Because there's a lot of animals like out there who like aren't able to like masturbate like humans can, right?
True.
And so it's like, I think very intrinsic in us. And I think going back to your point with aggression and all these things, maybe played a very vital and important role in like minimizing that sexual desire enough so that we could think about other things like building houses and like...
True, that can definitely be a thing. And also maybe not to, rape and stuff like that. But I do know that penguins actually also know how to masturbate. Like penguins masturbate. I heard this.
Okay.
So they don't even have hands, but maybe they're like...
I'm trying to think about how a penguin masturbates.
I'm
How
sure,
would a penguin masturbate, bro?
I would like to know. I'm sure there are videos on it.
I so badly want to type it into YouTube right now.
Penguin masturbate.
But I will refrain until we're done with this podcast.
The cops will be here before the end of the video. Bestiality.
Yeah.
Michael, I never
but yeah, I think it's a interesting one. I mean, we also know like these days how globally, especially in very developed countries, the birth rate is dropping hugely. And something that I've been thinking about as well myself is how that is linked to pornography and the idea that people are able to sexually satisfy themselves to an extreme level,
perhaps
individually, and there's no longer that need for intimacy and connection like there used to be. Like, yeah, you could use a magazine, but like it wasn't great. Now you've got like 8K VR, like, you know what I mean? It's just...
Perhaps, but I would also say that's not exclusive to pornography. I think it's just that we have made our lives, like the standard of our lives has been becoming more and more comfortable across the board.
No, I agree with you, but what I'm asking is, well, how much do you think pornography has contributed to this? Because there must be some contribution.
No,
right?
definitely. So I think it definitely has contributed to the fact that we actually found a way to satisfy a certain need and desire without having to actually have sex. And that has consequences that stop us from reproducing. I'm sure that effect is definitely there. But you can also say that raising, let's say, raising the living standards of people, making sure that most people have a house and can afford food, has stopped a lot of people from becoming hyper creative and creating more value for everyone because they already have shit, so they have no need to do that. Is that a bad thing? I'm not sure. So is it a bad thing that, I mean, personally, I would like to have kids, so I have this creative drive, but is it a bad thing that a lot of people decide not to have kids anymore? Maybe not, because...
But I don't think it's them deciding not to have kids. I think it's like, you know, that thing I was talking about with the automatic mode and dream state, where you just like thrown into the tumble dryer of life, and that includes all sorts of things, and one of it.
So they are not consciously there. No.
Or they are, but they don't know how to escape all this shit. I mean, one of the things for me was like I just never had any idea of like what the impact of this thing was. Just like we all eat, not me recently, but most people eat sugar on a daily basis, like processed sugar, right?
Keep that shit away from me.
Keep that shit away from me. But like no one really gives a second thought on a daily basis to like how much processed sugar impacts their life and their psychological well-being, until you watch a Netflix documentary about the evil sugar companies that want to and then you're like, oh my god, I shouldn't eat as much sugar. But then like, you know,
I think that's exactly it, because like, look, no one wants to be so starving that they are ready to kill someone on the street just to get food. But at the same time, you also don't want to stuff your gut with sugary shit, hyper-palatable foods all the time, because it doesn't make you feel
you
good.
Want wholesome food, and the equivalent of wholesome food is like in the sexual realm is like intimacy and connection with the human, and like it's literally like fast food. Porn is fast food for sexual desires.
And I think like occasionally
ultra processed.
But occasionally it's all right. Like there's nothing necessarily wrong with it, but I think it's if you abuse it. And I think also there's one additional thing that people might be lacking and that I find interesting is like, so we talked about like pornography and masturbation, but let's talk also about desire. So because, well, we all know this kind of, as they call post-nut clarity for men. So like the way that you look at actually your prime motivators in life or in that instant can drastically change based on whether or not you are a pre or post ejaculation. But also the desire, and I heard this today in a podcast when I was driving to work, is actually what people are most looking for in a relationship or in general is desire. And then being desired, but also literally feeling desire. And I experienced that myself quite a lot.
Me as well,
I like the feeling of feeling desire, like literally like this kind of idea of burning up with passion for a certain thing. I don't know why, but I just want to
know why. Take it back to travel days, to evolutionary. If you felt desired, you were wanted, you were then going to be part of the tribe. And if you were part of the tribe, you would survive.
But I want to feel desire for something.
Oh, okay. I was misinterpreting you,
I want to be like, I feel like this feeling, maybe you can also relate to it, I'm not sure, we didn't talk about it, but like to feel consumed by something that actually I am chasing that with all of my essence and then getting there, and then like this connection of you know what I mean, like where desire.
What I'm
is
thinking
being
about is
lived
the
out.
generative drive that Paul Conti spoke about, and you have the aggression drive and pleasure drive that serve the aggressive drive. But what I'm also thinking about is the state of doing versus being, and like finding peace. Where I get what you're saying, but you can also understand that if you're too much, if you want desire too much, or you desire too much, with every up there's a down.
Yeah.
Right? With every peak there's a valley.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, if for some reason life knocks you on your knees and puts you in a wheelchair and you're not able to be an Olympic athlete or whatever it may be that you desired so much anymore, then it can be completely devastating for you, right? So like you want to have a healthy level of desire, but not, once again, too much. It needs to be in that balanced state, I would say.
Yeah. I'm not sure, because I think like I would take the high with the low as well. So you want to have, so I agree, if you want to have the extreme highs, you have to take the extreme lows as well. But I just feel sometimes
I think we both are. Like, I am someone who takes the extreme highs.
Yeah,
with
you
the
are.
extreme lows. Yeah. And it's great when it's at the extreme high, but it's shit when it's at the extreme low.
Yeah, but maybe that can also be a part of addiction. Maybe that you actually just.
It's like this perspective, you know. It's like if you look at if you integrate sinusoidal wave, like the greater the amplitude of the wave, the higher the area that the curve is going to encompass in general, right? So if you looked at the area being the experience of life, then you have a higher value. But
you're such an engineer, man.
I am. But then when you're at like the bottom of that trough, like it's ultra shit, you know? And like for some people, like they don't want that crazy amplitude. And for other people, they really, really badly want it. Like,
yeah. Maybe that's also borderline addiction if you crave that. But I feel like that's sometimes really there, that you just want to be consumed by this thought and by this, well, being possessed by some certain kind of desire. If it's not detrimental to your existence, but actually, you know, like feeling desire for your partner.
Yes.
That's a beautiful thing to experience. Yes. And then really dissolve into that feeling. That's something that people are also after.
For sure. No, I completely agree. And I mean, just with anything, obviously people who take it to unhealthy extremes. Like if you look at, I don't know, these workaholics in like capitalist societies or whatever it may be, right? But once again, I think there's definitely a happy medium. And once again, I think for most people, they haven't necessarily found that happy medium. I think like the majority of people in this world will like wake up tomorrow morning and like go to work and maybe do something that they're not super passionate about, or they don't desire greatly, but they need it to pay the bills and whatever. So.
And one more thing I wanted to add to that is like, because you're talking about like finding the right balance and stuff. I read a couple of Sufi poems that actually really described as well of this burning up in a certain desire in a very unhealthy way. Mm-hmm. So like a certain love in the poems that there are a couple with the same theme that I read is like a guy is crazily in love with someone and then forgets everything, like stops eating and like only serves that person. But it's like a very romantic poem in a way. So like, I think there's also this need to feel that kind of intensity, even though it's bad. You know what I mean? Like that's even like a transcending kind of experience to have.
No, I agree. I agree with you. It's part of exploring what the human consciousness is capable of, because we are like truly incredible beings and we are capable of so much, and collectively we're going to explore the space in which we can exist and coexist in. And some of us as agents need to go to extremes, and some people will die going to those extremes, but it can be in like adrenaline junkies, right? How many of these free soloist climbers have summited some wall and slipped and fallen?
It's just so funny. We need to cut this up somewhere, because how did we get from a video about pornography to like, you know what, and some people are just gonna That's amazing.
Oh, bro. I think that's make funny. A good Instagram reel.
Yeah.
But no, it's an interesting one. I think pornography needs to be spoken about more. I think it needs to be
more. I think indeed. And I think like the main takeaway that I have is you need to, again, very boring answer, but like investigate yourself. So do you feel ashamed about it? Why do you feel ashamed? Like, what is the shadow that is kind of that you're suppressing there?
And for myself, yes, I did feel ashamed of it, and I have stopped watching pornography because of that shame, but also because
we started recording.
100%, but because of the fact that like the life on the other side of, let's say, not using it is far preferential. And I'm not going to sit here and be saying like it's not fucking easy. Like there's definitely moments where like I feel sexually aroused and I feel like an urge or whatever it is to use it. But then it's like with all addictions, right? It's like knowing that on the other side it's clearer or it's better. Like helps me get through it. But I'm someone with quite an addictive personality, right? And so whether it be alcohol or nicotine or pornography or whatever, fortunately, food and sugar I've never really had an issue with.
No, yeah,
but you know, certain weed for a long time I was quite addicted to that. So
if you would have to generalize, what would you tell people? Would you say try to stop with pornography, or what would your advice be to people?
I was thinking. Firstly, if people are using it, yes, I would say stop. Life on the other side is way better. At least that's from my personal experience.
Pornography, but not masturbation, or both, or what would you?
Well, I've actually only ever used or stopped them both in conjunction. I've never really gone with one without the other, really. So I can't really comment on that. They're both very intertwined for me.
So you never masturbated without pornography?
No, I have, but I'm talking about like in general, like like over time, right? Like there's been times that I have masturbated without pornography.
Tired times, yeah.
No, but like what I'm trying to say is like if we look at it like rolling averages over like 2 weeks, you know, like
sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like in general, like the times that I've like been using pornography in general are also like the times that I've masturbated in general, and times that I haven't used pornography are times that I haven't masturbated.
Right.
It's not something that I can really comment on. But if I were to, let's say, give advice to my younger self, I would definitely try and convince my other self to not use. I'm happy for people to like explore and these things, but once again, it's like the idea of, you know, we tell kids not to like smoke their first cigarette, because
right.
like, and it's that same sort of thing where it's like, yeah, you will probably be exposed to it in some like group chat with the boys or whatever, but in general, try not to go down that road. And then I would give all the reasons why, and a lot of it being like dopaminergic systems in the brain, like the essence of life, like all these things. And to be honest, sitting here as like a man, like I think that I would like probably have like a partner and maybe be a lot further along in like my intimacy journey with like other people if I'd never found pornography in the way that I did, being a nerd and having access to so much of it at such high definitions and qualities and all these things. I think that indeed, like with anything, when you use it a lot, it rewires the brain. Neurons that fire together wire together. Beautiful thing about the brain is that yes, you can obviously rewire it back. It's kind of changed for the good, but you can undo a lot of that changing. And that's a process that I'll go through, and like it could be way worse, right? I could have been addicted to crack cocaine in the past and then not been addicted now. And so like I'm not ungrateful. Like the journey that I've gone through also allows me to like see the world for more of what it is. And like there's been a lot of, I want to say, pain along the way. And obviously as people, we don't want to pass that pain on to others. So if I look at like my children and advice that I would give to like my son, like I would really want to sit down. Actually, interestingly enough, my dad and I were on the phone on Sunday, and it was after my run, and he asked me an interesting question, because he said, well, when he was getting to the age where he was thinking about having children, one of the thoughts that came to his mind was, what does he want to do differently to what his parents did? And I was like, that's quite interesting. And then he said, think about that. And when I visit them in December, he would like to hear that from me. And one of the things that I'll tell him is that I would have liked him to have sat down, not just with pornography, but for a lot of topics, and like being very upfront on these taboo topics and being like, listen, this is what it's going to do to you. This is what it did to me. This is what it had. You know what I mean? Like those sort of things.
Yeah. Wow, that's a really, really, really good question and a good point. I had something in my mind that I wanted to say, but this last part about your dad was kind of.
But what advice would you give to your son? Because you said you wanted to have kids one day.
Oh man, yeah. So what I was thinking when you were speaking was that basically the same thing holds for alcohol as well, and other addictive things, right? So I'm just thinking about looking back into my life and also looking forward into my future. You can definitely say that alcohol does bad things to your body and it makes you do crazy shit sometimes. But would I have liked to reverse my life and then cut out all the things that I did, all the experiences because of alcohol? No. I think they were quite forming moments in my life that made me to who I am. And I think we as humans also have the capacity to experience this, and that therefore it's part of life and experience. I think it's the journey to discover which relationship you want to have to these substances, and you want to learn to be and stay in control or let go of control in certain moments.
But it's also so beautiful having a moment and feeling joy and knowing that in that moment you have it because you chose a path.
Yeah.
Like you had like that road, that path choice, and like you made the right choice, and it was difficult, but like and it makes something more special, right?
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I was also thinking you were going a different way, because that you consciously chose to drink that night with your buddies, and then you're like, yeah, we're having fun. That's also a nice feeling. Saying like, tonight we're just going to drink and have fun. Those are great experiences. I would not. So I would, like you said, maybe just open a discussion, talk about the taboo, and say, look, there are positive sides and there are bad sides, and you're gonna experience both, and don't feel ashamed, and talk to me about it. That's what I would say to my kids.
And I think for me, like a common thread in a lot of these addictive substances is that they almost all act as like amplifiers to the existence of life. Alcohol makes something that's funny way more funny, or something that's like
sad,
music
way
or
more sad,
yeah. And weed does it, and nicotine does it, and pornography does it, like something that's like turn on, like way more of a turn on. And like some advice that I would give to like younger version of myself, or maybe to my kids, is like, don't focus on trying to figure out how to use these amplifiers with the least after effect. So it's like borrowing happiness from the future, and rather just focus on making your actual intrinsic life as meaningful and as pleasurable. So find the friends that you can laugh the most with without alcohol. And then yes, one day there'll be a wedding and you will add alcohol to it, and it'll be even more better. But like for a long time in my life, like, you know, especially I think when we met, like it was different, where like I seemed like I had it all. Like I could party and drink a shitload, and then like be fine the next day, and gym, and like, I don't know, talk to girls and do this and do that and hold a good job and get promotions. And then I was like trying so hard to figure out, like I was smoking weed every day and I was vaping all that, doing all these things, and you're like amplifying, and then this, and it's like all this, and then it's like, whoa, what the fuck? Like
all these external stimulations.
Yeah. It's just like, it's just like, calm down. It's like,
It's like you're putting all these different things in control of your vessel, and then you are not there that much anymore. But now you're here.
I'm here. I'm fully here.
Very grateful for that, Michael.
Yeah. And it's been an amazing journey doing this podcast.
Yeah.
Because I'm also able to think about a lot of these experiences that I've had, because we've discussed how I think when I talk, and I think you're the same. So that's been a beautiful process.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Is there anything we haven't touched on?
I haven't touched myself.
That's a good thing. Thank you for restraining during this entire episode, Tim.
Hands above the table.
Hands above the table. That should be the thumbnail. I think we should do more of these sorts of episodes. Taboo topics.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think things that people are difficult and uncomfortable to talk about, we should open up and talk about them.
Made me quite horny.
That's good to know.
Let's rub one out.
When the cameras are off, otherwise YouTube will ban us.
Oh, yeah.
All right, that's episode, 12, 13, whatever it is, of Unfamiliar Randomness. Mike and Tim out.
Peace.